If you're an author who is just starting to get into running ads for your books to make more sales, you need to make sure you're budgeting properly to run those ads. But how much should you budget? And what should you be looking at? And what are the things that you should be paying attention to when you first start? Today we're talking to Bryan Cohen. He has worked with over 30,000 authors, helping them to scale their ads on social media, on Amazon, in other locations. And so he is bringing all of the good details for the people who are just starting to get into this, whether you're a brand new author or an established author who's just getting into ads or getting back into ads after it's been a bit. So let's jump in.
I'm Bryan Cohen from Best Page Forward, and we help authors to scale up their royalties.
Bryan, I'm so excited because I want to talk a little bit about people who are just getting into the world of running ads for their books. Specifically, we have a lot of things that feel very behind the curtain. It feels very difficult to know what to do and where to go and how much time and effort and specifically money we should be bringing to those initial ads that we are running. So for people who are studying and who are looking these things up and who are about to start testing, what do you feel like they should be budgeting in order to make sure that they have a successful first run of those book ads without sinking a ton of money into it and wasting their time and efforts, but it is going to give them the best analytics to then later on scale?
Right. I think it's tough when you're first starting out. I think that a lot of authors think that, or they've heard that running ads and doing publishing is very much something you can start with from zero. And I think it's a really good idea to think of this like a real business. You are a small publishing company now, and so you need to start saving up. If you have other work, it might be helpful to have a little deposit every month going into a little marketing automatic deposit so that you have like an extra $50, $100 just at your disposal. Now, when you're first running ads, here's the good news, especially when you're running Amazon ads, it's pretty slow. It takes its time. We do not need to worry so much as long as we're bidding pretty low. I like to recommend bidding 34, 39 cents for which is what you pay for every click from your ad. And as long as you're paying that and setting that as your bid, you're not going to get a ton of clicks right away. Some of the other platforms, Facebook, BookBub, they are going to bill you right away. You'll immediately lose your budget. But if you start slowly but surely with Amazon ads, you're not going to spend all that money right away, which will definitely help your budget. It'll definitely help you not to break the bank. I recommend trying to budget out about $50 at first, because that is our goal, to try to get about 100 clicks for those $50, because that's going to give us a lot of great information for going forward.
That makes a lot of sense. So in terms of managing expectations, we know that usually it goes slow, especially on Amazon. So if we start to put money into our ads, how long should we be paying attention to those analytics? How long do we need to be watching? How long do we need to be expecting to wait for information to know whether or not we're being profitable?
I love that you use the word expectations, because I think that a lot of authors have challenging expectations when they are starting out. Folks, it's not going to take 3 hours. It's not going to take 3 days. It's going to take longer than this. And we need to make sure that we pace ourselves. And so I recommend 1 or more months with about 100 clicks is the amount of information we want to gather, the amount of data we want to gather before we make big decisions here. A lot of authors will be like, oh, well, I got 5 clicks and it didn't work. I better go change my cover. And you might need to, but 5 clicks is simply not enough info. You need to take your time. You need to relax your expectations a little.
So for people who are then jumping in and they're trying to decide where to put their money and how to put their money into these initial ads, do you recommend picking one place like Amazon or like TikTok or like Facebook and focusing on that for a specific amount of time? Or do you feel like it's best to take that $50 and spend a little here and a little here and a little here?
I'm a big fan of focus. I'm a big fan of the Pareto principle. 80% of the results come from 20% of the actions. I'm particular to Amazon, but I could be swayed. If you have a giant Facebook fan page community, you might start with Facebook ads. If you have a huge TikTok following, you might start with TikTok. I would definitely recommend that you keep it low. You keep the amount of amount of places that you are having to keep an eye on. I would keep them low. We've talked about this in Author Ad School as would you rather have one baby at one time or triplets? Because you are going to have to pay that much more attention to the 3 children, the 3 different places you're running ads,
Mm-hmm.
or you could be focusing on just one baby at once and not have your attention as diverted.
Okay, so for people who are actively looking to you for guidance when it comes to ads, for the people who are watching this episode and just want a game plan, want some specific takeaway where they can go do those action steps, what do you recommend in terms of how long they should focus on that one platform before they start to look at diversifying where they're running their ads? Should it be a month? Should it be 6 months? For people who just need that hand holding, what would your advice be?
Well, first, let's look at the big picture. How long do you want to be an author? 6 months, 12 months, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years? How much of a percentage is 1 month versus 3 months versus 6 months of all this? Because of course, we want results yesterday. We want data yesterday. But if you really want to make a long game plan of this, I remember I talked to an author at a conference. This really stuck with me. She was telling me about this series and she was telling me about all the things. And, you know, we've all chatted with new authors. They're super, super excited to share their story universe. And I said, well, what is this book like? Like if you had to pick 10 comparables of this book, what would you find them? And she's like, no, it's totally unique. And I said, this is a problem because we don't know what to advertise to. We don't know if readers are even excited about this sort of thing. And that's what I think comes with time. You realize, no, we actually need to write a little bit more to the market. We need to write more to what people are thinking about reading. And so we focus on the short-term results and we focus on, oh, well, we got to see what happens here. We're missing the big picture of this series you write might be 3 series away from the series that is going to make you $100,000. But if you're so focused on this and getting quick results and only looking at 5 clicks worth, you are going to potentially miss out on the thing that makes you a full-time author. And so let's take 3 months, 6 months to dive into one platform and be patient, as hard as I know it is. But if you gather that data and you realize after 3 to 6 months, hey, this series is not selling, and no matter what I do, it might not sell. Wouldn't that be better to know that information in 3 to 6 months as opposed to 3 years later, you've written 6 books because you've ignored everything and they didn't sell? I'm trying to save you time. I'm in the time machine. I'm from the future. I'm trying to help you.
And I think that's so important. We talk about that a lot here on the channel, that not everything you do is going to be your most profitable. It's not always going to be the thing that makes you successful. It's not always going to be the thing that you need to be focused on. And just because we love something or we spend so much time and effort doing something doesn't mean it's going to be the thing that gets us to where we're going next. So it's always important to look forward. It's important to know where we're going next and to have a plan for that. And you've said a couple of different times in our episodes that it's so important to work on the next thing. It's always important to work on that next project and not get so hyper-focused on one thing that we're not going to be able to take those necessary steps forward or to walk away from the things that we genuinely love. So when it comes to doing our ads, we typically want to spend money on the one that we love, the one that we really want to be successful. So for the people who are just starting their ads, we're probably not going to take that money that we have set aside for our initial ads and put it a little bit in every one of our books, especially for people with a big backlist. So for you, what are your deciding factors in which book or which series to focus on first?
Well, if you have a big backlist, prior sales history is definitely a big deal. I have an author I've worked with who had a 30-book series, 30-book cozy mystery series. And as soon as she started putting more ads into it, it made a big difference. Now, not all of us have a 30-book cozy mystery backlist here that is easy for us to work on. So if you have a big backlist, definitely look at prior sales history. If you have a few books here and there, definitely running ads just to the series starters, just to see if those sell. versus trying to run it to all the book 2s and all the book 3s. That would be a good initial step. And we want to try to get that 100-click plateau for possibly all of those series. See which one is significantly profitable. If none of them are significantly profitable, we have to take it to heart. Yes, changing a cover, changing a blurb, changing a something might increase our royalties 20 to 30% on that series. If it's 20 to 30% of $20, is that going to make it so you can quit your job, quit your side hustle, pay the mortgage? No. So you have to think about, okay, where do I have to grow? Because royalties growth is personal growth. Where do I need to grow? Where do I need to improve as an author? And that is going to be kind of the better direction than saying, well, Bryan doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going to write 12 more books in this time travel, fantasy, romance, a palooza, and then it's not going to go anywhere. And yeah, I just want to help you not do that.
That's really important. And you mentioned running ads to books 2 and 3 and beyond in a series. One of the questions I get the most from authors, established and new, is when it comes to running these advertisements, do they just focus on the series starter? Or is it worth it to be putting it into books 2 or 3? And then is there a difference between being someone who is newer versus highly established with a series that's going really well? So in your opinion, do we run to book 2 and 3, or do we focus on the series starters?
Newbies, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I know we want to. I know we want to. One, it feels easier, right? We just throw all the books into one ad and then we're good to go. And I'll admit, I've in the past said nobody should do it, but we have seen big time established authors run ads to all the books in between, all the books in between the first one and the newest release. And they have had some success from it because they're picking up readers, the 100,000 readers that bought book 1 that maybe a couple tens of thousands didn't buy book 2. They're out there. If the numbers are much smaller, it doesn't quite work. The math doesn't work as well. But you can, with an established series, have more success with that. But a lot of authors who are like, well, I'm established because I've been doing this for 6 years. It doesn't necessarily apply to you if the numbers aren't there. It stinks to have to tell people that are, getting by with a couple $100 per month that they shouldn't go hog wild on all of this. The people who are at closer to $5,000 a month, you might have more leeway with this, but a couple $100 a month, there's that personal growth. There's where we need to grow as an author in order to figure out what is our next best step.
And you've worked with so many authors, so you have a lot of data. You have a lot of experience. And so when it comes to people who are just jumping in, what are some of the biggest misconceptions or errors that you see these people making?
People thinking that the first book they ever write is going to be their moneymaker. That's definitely a huge misconception. People thinking that they're going to get results in a couple of days or a couple of hours and then saying, oh, must not work. Better try something else. And then they go and try 20 courses, 20 different things. Those are some of the big ones. I think also just this assumption that this little tweak is going to make all the difference. And suddenly, well, because I heard this guy say this thing on this podcast and now I'm going to try it. Now it's going to, I'm going to do audiobooks on YouTube and do all this stuff. And it's like, well, it might improve things 20 to 30%. And I wish it would improve things more. But if those numbers aren't there, and it's like any other business, the dollars and the cents need to match up. It needs to make sense. If it doesn't, then you really need to do some deeper diving. You need to learn more from some trusted people. One of the things that has cost me money, this has probably cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars, KM, is not lying to people, is actually being like, this is hard. And then like 20 to 30% of people leave and saying, this is going to take time. And 20 to 30% of people leave. But I'm okay with the money that it's cost me and the money that it's maybe cost my team, because I want to tell it like it is. Things are going to take time. They're going to be hard. The first series you ever write probably isn't going to make any money. And you need to keep thinking of this like a long-term 5, 10, 20-year plan.
And I think that's so important. That's one of the things we talk about the most here on this channel, that author life is a business. And if you don't treat it like a business, you're going to fail, period. End of discussion. It is going to be very hard to be successful if you're not coming into this with a business mindset and with a plan. So for people who are just jumping in, they're starting their ads, they're working on this, and maybe they want to learn a little bit more, or maybe they want a little bit of handholding, a little bit of
Mhm.
coaching. You can always reach out to Bryan. He's on social media, but he also offers coaching. So, Bryan, where can everybody find you?
Hey, you can find me at bestpageforward.net. I also have a starter book on Amazon ads, self-publishing with Amazon ads. So go check that out where books are sold. But feel free, reach out to me on social media. I would love to talk to you.
Drop your questions down below. Bryan is actually coming back for upcoming episodes, and we want to make sure we're getting your questions answered. So follow along, hit that subscribe and notification bell, and drop your questions on the world of marketing your book, both paid and organic, and follow along for daily episodes helping you navigate the world of your writing, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make this your most profitable year ever with the least amount of stress and overwhelming time commitment on the content you are creating. We'll see you then.